Hello, hello, and welcome to Mindfully Rich Podcast, your weekly look at life and finances with a twist, where we talk about improving your overall relationship with money and building better financial habits to increase your financial freedom in life. On each episode, I'll discuss real life situations and give y'all practical advice to apply to your financial life. The point of this podcast is to help you enhance your financial behaviors, to keep you financially healthy so you won't end up broke. I'm the creator and host, Richie. Now, let's get into today's conversation. What's up, y'all? We back. Okay, if y'all haven't noticed, Friday is our new day. Friday is our day. So y'all just go ahead, get that marked on the calendar. And it's been taking me some time. We're coming up on a year. I always say we just because I include y'all in this journey. I do this podcast for y'all. And so I'm coming up on a year on March 9th. And so I've been trying to find a day that works. Wednesday was going pretty good. I don't know if y'all remember, for all my day one people that started with me, Tuesday was the day I was doing that first. Then I went to Wednesday because one of my favorite podcasts, they released their episodes on Wednesday, and now we on Friday. Friday's just a better day for me overall. I feel better about it. Y'all listen more. It's just an overall good thing, okay? Until I change it up again. I can do that. It's mine, okay? But thank y'all so much for tuning in to the podcast. You just don't know how much I appreciate y'all. I appreciate all of the subscriptions. They've been going up. The listens been going up. Y'all just been doing the damn thing. And I'm just so excited that I have this platform and that I have y'all as my tribe. Thank y'all so much, because I be slow to putting these episodes out. I be slow to even market them, but y'all just be listening. Y'all be listening anyway. So make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast so you can get the notifications when the podcast drops. That's just an alert for you. Make sure you got your alerts on. So whatever platform you're listening and streaming the podcast on, make sure you're subscribed so you get those notifications. All right, so if y'all haven't checked out last week's episode, it was a goodie. You know what? It seems like anytime I talk about student loans, them episodes, the listens be all the way up. Okay, y'all tune in for student loan type episodes. And last week was like a proclamation to the Lord and to Biden's administration to go ahead and get rid of all them student loans. We want them student loans melted. Okay, you hear me? We don't want them froze. We want it melted. All right. And so if you've been following the news, right now they are talking about eliminating $50,000 from everyone who has student loans. So just $50,000 up to $50,000 is what's out there on the table right now. Although we want them melted, that's something. That's a start. That's a big chunk. Okay, we'll take 50. I got under 50. So you know what? Look, blessed. Go ahead and move forward with that. So I'll be keeping y'all updated as I hear more on that. And y'all make sure y'all stay tuned to that type of stuff too. If you got student loans, you should be listening. You should be trying to figure out what the word on the street is. And don't forget, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, go ahead and check that one out because it was dope, y'all. It was really dope. All right. We're going to go ahead and jump into today's Mindful Money Moment. And I've gotten these questions from y'all, and I want to go ahead and address it now. For the first 25 episodes, I did do music themed titles, right? I had a song that was along with the title. Like the song was the title of the episode. I did that for 25 episodes. What I realized is that I'm not going to be able to keep that up because I want this podcast to be long standing. I may bring it in there a few times, but it's not going to be something that I'm going to be able to do forever. Okay. And so I will bring it back sometimes, but for the most part, it's just going to be titles, catchy titles for the most part for the things that I'm talking about. So just wanted to make sure that I brought that to the table. But today, y'all, we are talking about the cost of living is trash. It's trash. It is good old trash. See, this is a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I finally got it down to how I want to break it down. Okay, I finally was able to break it down in a way that I said everybody gonna like that. Okay, and so as an older millennial, I don't know if y'all have noticed this, but I'm in the financial world, and so it's interesting to me how when I'm talking to, say, baby boomer generation people or great generation people like my grandmother's age, they'll talk about how they were able to purchase houses and all the things that they were able to do when they were my age. And I'm just like, yo, back in the day, stuff was way cheaper. And I understand incomes were lower too at that age, for them. But what they don't understand now, currently, inflation of home prices, the economy, everything is so expensive, way more expensive than what anybody older, because like I said, I'm a millennial, older than us had to even deal with, right? And incomes haven't had a chance to catch up to how high inflation is. And it's crazy. And so I wanted to make sure that I broke this down for everyone just because, yes, the cost of living is trash, but you just got to know how to maneuver it. You got to know how to maneuver where it is that you live, maneuvering the cost of living, just because it's not the same in every state, in every city. It's different. And this is the thing. We have choices as to where it is we decide to reside. Okay. I want to be where the money reside, but we talk about where you live at right now. I just had to throw that in there. But because we know the cost of living isn't getting any lower, y'all, it's not. It's only going to continue to go up. And that's the thing. I done been grown enough now to know that the cost of living is only going to get more expensive. So that means I have to be more savvier about where it is that I plan to live, what it is that I plan to do in life. And that's the reason why we're going to go ahead and get into it. And so I'm not sure if y'all know this, but if you're ever considering moving to another city, they have these calculators online where you can compare the cost of living in your current city to the city that you're considering moving to. And so one of the calculators that I like to use is smartasset.com. Go ahead, check that out. And I love to compare where it is I live now because I've lived in so many cities, y'all. Okay. As a married woman, I moved 7 times. As a single woman, I've moved 2 times. And so when I was moving state to state, I had to see, or if I was contemplating moving to another state, I had to see what does the cost of living look like there in comparison to where I'm at, just because it lets you know how much more money you're going to need when you get there. Because lots of people, they plan moves. They say, I'm moving here, I'm moving there. But I don't know if lots of people are actually putting strategy to their move and thinking about all of the things that they really need to consider before you decide to move to a city or in your current city. If you're sitting there and you know that this cost of living is killing me, I'm not able to do anything that I want to do. This is not the living that I want. If you're considering, hey, I need to move cities because the current city that I live in is taking me out, you need to see what is that other city that I want to live, that other city where I'm contemplating moving to. What does it look like there? How is the cost of living there? What does that look like? And so those calculators can help you do that. And so I wanted to go ahead and break down for y'all some things you need to consider in your current place of where you live, or if you are contemplating on moving. These are factors that you need to consider so that way you can make the cost of living comfortable for whatever type of lifestyle you're trying to have. All right. So the first thing you need to consider is the affordability. Look at the affordability in your current city. How is that? How does it feel? What are the costs that you currently have? Like your utility costs, your grocery costs, that gas cost. If you have kids, your childcare costs, entertainment costs. How, much am I paying for the things when I'm going out? If you go clubbing and things like that. Now check this out. The world is closed. Okay, in certain places. Okay, because some of y'all cities is open. All right. But you get what I'm saying. How much am I paying when I go out? Is it that ladies in before 10 free thing or whatever, or am I paying 20, 30, 40, $50 every time I go out? You get what I'm saying? You need to look at those things. What does that affordability look like, and how comfortable are you with that affordability? Of course, in your current place where you live, if it's not affordable for you, then yes, you do need to see, what do I need to change? Or if I'm contemplating on moving somewhere, what is that going to look like for me in that other city? You need to do your research on that. And so for this example, I like to compare where I grew up in Harvey, Illinois, to where I currently live here in Sacramento, California. Back at home, groceries way cheaper. Gas way cheaper. I mean, up to like $1.50 cheaper, y'all. Okay. Clothes, items like things that I need, everything cheaper where I grew up at than it is here. And so for y'all, when you're considering moving, or when you're looking at where you currently live and you're trying to figure out affordability, you need to make sure that you're looking at those things. What is the affordability now with these things versus the place where I'm trying to go if you're trying to move? And then also, when you're thinking about affordability, if you are deciding to move, don't forget moving costs. Okay? Moving costs ain't no punk. They ain't no punk. I have moved a lot. A lot. Okay, so I know that, and anybody that's listening, if you've moved a lot, you know what I'm talking about. So you have to make sure that you're including all of those costs, and then anything that you're going to have to purchase. Like when you're moving, of course, we like to decorate our houses in new ways and things like that. You also got to have that cost. So you always got to think about that, and that all falls under affordability. All right, the next thing that you need to consider is taxes. Okay, and so this was something that when I lived in Florida, y'all, Florida doesn't have state taxes. It was love, okay? It was love all day. I said, yes, okay, my checks way higher, okay? If you've ever lived in a state that didn't have state taxes, it's just love, okay? I don't even know another word to really describe it. But here in Cali, we pay state taxes. And we pay a lot of state taxes, okay? And so when you're considering moving somewhere like Texas, y'all gonna hear Texas a lot today. Houston, Texas got my name on it. God don't want me there yet, though. It's cool, but Houston, Texas got my name on it. But Texas doesn't pay state taxes, so it's going to be cheaper there versus, say, a California where we pay all the taxes. And so when you are considering moving somewhere, or you're trying to determine cost of living where you currently live versus somewhere that you're thinking about moving to, say because the cost of living is too high where you're at, you want to look at that. Do they also have state taxes? What does that look like? So if you're moving to a place or considering moving to a place that doesn't have state taxes, you're going to be saving some money. Okay. The next thing you need to look at is employment opportunities where you're at. If you're looking at cost of living for your current city and you're trying to determine, do I need to stay? You need to see, what is your hireability somewhere else? Okay. That's the one thing that I always talk to people about. Cause in my big girl job, y'all, I'm in the financial world, and I'm telling people, if your current job ain't doing it for you, okay, where else can you go? Because sometimes in order for us to get that jump that we need, we have to change jobs. That was something that I had to do. I had to change job in order to make a better living for myself. Because this is the thing. Sometimes people get stuck in their roles, or they're stuck in that low paying job where if you continue to get those raises in that company, you're only going to get those $1, $2, $3. Like, you're not getting significant raises. You may get up to 5% if you're making, say, lateral moves, or you're getting those small promotions within a company. It's just true tea. I'm not sitting here trying to make it seem like it's something that it's not. It's true tea. If you don't negotiate your pay going into a job, that's going to be a whole nother episode. If you don't negotiate your pay going into a job, you can start off low and stay low throughout the years. And that's a cycle I've been in. I don't ever want to be in that cycle again. Okay. And so if you are looking at the cost of living, that's what we're talking about right now. Cost of living is getting way too expensive. What can you do? What are my employment opportunities outside of where it is that I'm currently employed? Can I go somewhere else? And if you're considering moving, what are the employment opportunities where you're going? Does that, so say I'm in California, so of course the jobs be paying in certain cities, okay? Certain people think just because you in California that, all the jobs is paying. All the jobs ain't paying, okay? All of them ain't high paying jobs. That's just true tea. You got to do your research so that you can see what your career field is making in that city, making in that state. You got to do your research. And that's going to be a running theme throughout today. Doing your research so that you can see what do the employment opportunities look like, hireability, what does that look like, salaries look like. Okay, just because we talking cost of living, we talking about how we're going to be able to afford where it is we're living or where it is we're trying to go. Okay, and that takes me to the next thing, okay? Y'all, home prices, rent prices, okay? Look, I know I'm about to start preaching for this one. Just because where I'm currently at, home prices, oh my goodness, y'all, child, woo, they up there. They up there. But this is the thing. I'm not even in the place where home prices are the highest. Later on, I'm going to talk about where home prices are the highest. But you need to know what the home prices look like in your city, especially if you're going to one day decide to be a homeowner. What does that look like? Am I going to be able to afford being a homeowner? Lots of people right now, especially in my generation, millennials, we're not able to purchase at this moment just because, let me tell you what, the student loan debt is taking us down right now because that is eating away our debt to income. It's taking away a good part of our income, us paying for the education that we wanted to get. And so we're unable to have what they call, quote unquote, the American dream by purchasing a house. So in your current city, when we're looking at cost of living, you do need to figure out what is the home prices? What does that look like for me out here? Am I going to be able to afford it out here? If I'm not going to be able to afford it out here, let me look at another place. If I'm deciding to move, you need to look first before you get there. What do those home prices look like? And then right now, for those people who are renting, you really need to look at what are rentals looking like. Y'all, I'm going to do an episode on rental negotiation, but let me tell you what, I have never seen rent so high. So out here, my old 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, when I left, I was paying, I think like $14.58. When I left, they rented that thing out for $19.05. No lie. I said, what for two bedroom, 2-bath? Excuse me? Right? Right? I know y'all like, what? When I was in Mississippi, when I lived out there, I had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was like 1,700 square feet that I only paid $650 for. Okay? That was in 2013. That thing was nice. It was real nice. Okay? And so out here, that's the reason why look, I can go all day about that, but that's the reason why you got to do your research on both home prices and rental prices for where it is that you're currently at. And if you decide, hey, cost of living is too much here, I want to move somewhere else, before you move, you need to look at what that looks like in another city. All right. So something else you need to look at, this doesn't have, you know what? It kind of does. At first, I didn't think it had anything to do with like the affordability, right? But it does. Crime rates. You need to look at crime rates. And so this is something that I did. I picked a place when I first came here to Sacramento because y'all know I ain't from here. I didn't been here in California. Was coming up on 6 years, I think, right? I've been here a minute now. But before I moved out here, I wanted to stay in a place that was safe. I wanted to make sure I was willing to pay the money just to ensure me and my kids was going to be safe. I didn't want nowhere that I couldn't walk outside and be cool, or my kids couldn't walk to school. Like, I didn't want no places like that. That's just where I'm at in life. I don't want that. So I'll go broke just to ensure I'm safe, right? That's going to matter. That matters where you're currently staying at. And it's going to matter if you're deciding to move somewhere. You need to see, hey, what is it? What's the cost for me to be safe? What's the cost for me to be as far away from crime as possible? Not saying crime can't happen in any neighborhood, because it definitely can. But we know that there are neighborhoods that tend to have more crime than others. And that's something that you really need to look for in wherever it is you currently live, or if you decide, I need to move somewhere else. So when you're calculating that cost of living, those crime rates need to be a part of your decision as well. Okay. And so proximity to your family and your friends, that's something that's really, really important to me. And so I'm very lucky. Okay. So y'all hear me talk about my fine friend. I have a fine friend circle. I have my best friend who lives in Houston, Texas, and my family is back in Chicago. And so when I'm looking at places to live, I like to look at how far is it going to be. So like for me, I have to travel. Okay. How far is it for me to travel if I'm able to drive? So for me to go home, I ain't nowhere near driving home. I ain't nowhere near driving to Houston. So what do those airplane tickets look like from my city? Okay. If I'm living somewhere, I need to know that's calculated in my cost of living, because in my cost of living, I know during my living, I'm going to be visiting family. I'm going to be visiting my best friend. I'm going to be visiting my friends. How far is that for me to go? That's something that I'm calculating into. Am I able to still afford the cost of living of where I'm at, or do I need to move somewhere else? And I always live close to an airport, y'all, just because it's important for me. I don't know why. I just like living close to an airport. And so here in Sacramento, y'all, I'm very close to the airport. Very close. So close, people leave their cars here so that they can go to the airport. All right. When I was in Mississippi, when I lived out there, I was 5 minutes from the airport. Very close. When I was in Florida, I'm sitting here thinking about it. I was real close. Back at home where I grew up, I was about 45 minutes from the airport. But that don't have nothing to do with y'all, but it's something that's important to me. So whatever is important to you, but just looking at what that proximity looks like for you to get to your family, your friends, and how much is that going to cost? I just told you, for me, I got to do some traveling. So I always have to equate whatever those prices are for me to go home. So back in when the world was open, for me to go home, it was almost about $500 round trip for me to go home. Right now, the tickets are a little cheaper. But I knew that was going to be a cost. So that was something that I would have to equate into my budget for vacation. And I have a line item for vacation just because I know I got to go home and I know I got to go visit. For me to go to my best friend, a little cheaper. So I just equate that into the budget. All right. And so something else y'all need to think about, and I don't know, this kind of can fall into cost of living, but not really. But the culture, right? The culture that we're around, okay? And now me, look, let me tell you what. Tuh. I am blackety black all day. All right? And so I grew up, I tell y'all, Harvey, Illinois, you're going to hear me say Chicago a lot. Fight me if you got something to say against that, okay? And so how I grew up, black teachers, all black people around me. Like I grew up with all of the blacks. Okay. I just did. That was my life. And so for my kids, I wanted them to have a little bit of that culture that I had, just because it's important to me. It's important for us to live close to our cultures. I know for me it is. So for some people, it's like, I don't want to be there. That's not me. That ain't my story. But for those of us who, feel like I did, when I moved here to Sacramento, I wanted to live in a place where I knew my kids would still be around other black children, where they would have some black teachers, of some sort. I knew they weren't going to be like me and have all of the black teachers, okay, or all of the black students around them. But I wanted to make sure they had as many as they needed. And so I specifically picked a neighborhood that did have black children, had a school that had, like my kids' school, they have a black principal, they have black teachers. That's important for me to see that representation. That was important for me. And so that may have a cost to it. It may be associated with something in for you, so that's something that you also have to look for, especially if you're like that, like me, and I wanted to ensure that I too was in an area that had black people around. So that way, it just feels, it's something about it. I just, it's just not to dig too deep into that. Culture is important to me. Okay. So it's definitely important to me. In addition to culture, because I was talking about my kids, educational systems, right? And so when I moved here to Sacramento, it was important that I found a good education system that also had the culture. So it was like those two things were kind of looped together. And my area where I live, yes, it's expensive. It's I'm not gonna say it's the best school around us just because True T, the school ain't getting the best rating like it should, but the area expensive. So, but I had to pay for what it was that I was looking for. So that's something that I had to equate into my overall cost of living of how I'm going to be able to afford what it is that I want. And that's the thing that we're doing in life, right? When you think about cost of living, it's just that cost for you to afford the things that you want. What is that lifestyle that you're trying to live? So that's all the things that I'm kind of bringing up right now, just making sure that we're all remembering that. And so some other things to consider is your food options. So, like, check this out, y'all. If I would have stayed in Chicago, like, I don't even know if I would have made it. Y'all, the food is so good, so greasy, it's just amazing. We got some of the best food in Chicago that the world has ever seen, right? Me coming to California, I think saved my heart, my arteries, just my whole body. Okay, just because I have started eating so healthy since I've been here. I'm proud of myself, y'all. Salads, smoothies, like I've been eating all the healthy stuff. Like your girl is doing it. And I just ate a plant-based pizza. I tried to give it to my son. My son didn't like it. But let me tell you what, this plant-based pizza is everything. I didn't think I was going to like it because, I'm from Chicago. I'm home of the pizza. Okay. And I love this pizza. And I said, it's plant-based, cauliflower crust. Look, okay, you can't tell me nothing. I'm finna get all these stomachs down. I'm finna be all on the internets getting the attention. Okay. But you want to make sure that you're looking at what are those food choices that are around you, just because that was important for me. When I moved to Sacramento, I didn't know what the food was going to look like. And so I did have to look and see. There is a restaurant that had, this is true to y'all. There's a restaurant that I think it's called Chicago Fire. And so it's like 10 minutes away from me. So I was like, if I don't like nothing, I like this place. And it's 10 minutes away. So I was like, this is going to be cool. I can do this. I know that sounds silly, but that was one thing that was important for me. So looking at the places that are around you, your food choices, that's something that's going to be important. And I'm trying to see if I missed anything, in regards to cost of living. Of course, you want to look at your city sizes and, if you're living in a smaller city versus a larger city, what that's going to look like. I can say from living in Mississippi, when I lived in Gulfport and Biloxi, Mississippi, versus living here in Sacramento, California, of course, those were smaller cities. It was way cheaper, way cheaper. Okay, versus a larger city like Sacramento, not the largest city, but it's over 500,000 people here. So pretty big, it's going to be more expensive. So those are some things that you want to look for when you're analyzing cost of living, when you're trying to analyze what it is that you need to either cut back on where you currently live, or if you're deciding to move to another city. I know I gave y'all a lot of information there, y'all. That was a lot of information, okay? And so to round all of this up, since I'm talking about cost of living, I did want to tell y'all about 10 of the most expensive cities to live. And so San Francisco, nope, take that back. New York, that is the most expensive place to live. Then you got San Francisco, California. Honolulu, Hawaii, my new favorite place. That's third. Boston, Massachusetts is fourth. Oakland, California is fifth. San Jose, California is sixth. San Diego, California is seventh. LA is eighth. Miami, Florida is ninth. Hold on, I'm missing one. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, y'all getting 9 because I don't remember what I did with the 10th one. But those are the 9. 9 most expensive cities to live in. And so the reason why I wanted to tell y'all that is because all of these cities are cities that I hear people saying, I want to move to. I want to move to LA. I want to go to San Francisco. I want to go to Miami. These are places that people always want to move to. These are 9 of the most expensive cities to live. So you want to make sure that you're doing your research, especially if you're one of those people that's like, I want to move there. And I don't know if y'all saw the consistency of all those California cities. California is expensive, okay? Please, look, if you're trying to come here, get your coins together, okay? This was a place that I would have never put on my dream list of wanting to come. Okay. Never did I ever want to come here, y'all. The Lord brought me here and the Lord is keeping me here. But this is the thing. The Lord will provide. That's the one thing that he definitely will do. He will provide. And so me living here is just a straight up blessing because every single day, but God, that is the only way I'm able to survive here. So just do your research and know that. And I want to follow that up with I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this. 5 of, not the cheapest city, but 5 places where your paycheck will go the furthest, okay? Houston, Texas, my favorite place, okay? That is my favorite place, y'all. Houston is number 1 for that. Dallas, Texas is number 2. Charlotte is number 3. Denver, Colorado is 4. And then Austin, Texas is number 5. Look at the consistency there, okay? So you saw for the most expensive cities, it was a bunch of California cities, right? For the 5 places where your paycheck goes the furthest, those cities, you see the Texas thing that's going on there. Lots of people are moving to Texas. Even here in California, lots of people right now, especially during this pandemic, they're moving to Texas just because it's so much more affordable. Yes, your dollar does go further. And that's the reason why we're talking about cost of living. If you want your dollars to go further, make sure you are paying attention to where it is you currently live. If you can't afford it, make sure you're looking at where that place is that you want to move to see how you can stretch your dollars. That's what it's all about. Of course, you got to manage your money right. You got to do that. You got to control your spending. You got to do all of the things. But looking at that cost of living, that is going to be important. All right. That was a lot of information, y'all. This is a long episode. It's cool. It's cool. We doing good. All right, y'all. And so before we go, want to just remind y'all about the Mindfully Rich savings challenge that is going on. And so if you are on the $5,000 path for saving, week 5, it ends today, and your deposit is $25. If you're on the $2,500 path, your deposit is $1,250. We are in week 5 and it ends today. For next week, as we move into week 6, your deposit, if you're on the $5,000 path, is going to be $50. If you're on the $25 path, your deposit, of course, is going to be $25, half of that. Y'all make sure y'all continue to listen. Share. Continue to share your journey with me for the Mindfully Rich Savings Challenge that's going on. Tag me, put the hashtag, do all of the things. Put this in your story. Share from the social media page. Y'all know my social media of choice is on IG at mindfully_rich_podcast. And make sure y'all subscribe. Write a review. If you're loving the episodes, make sure that y'all write a review. And I think I done covered everything, y'all. That is it. Y'all be sure to live life mindfully, intentionally, and on purpose. And until next time, when I hit y'all with another one.